Right now, your attention, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, so
My name is John Wesley. I'm the superintendent in Centerville City Schools. This is Laura Salver, our treasurer. First of all, I just want to welcome everyone tonight, Jared Watts, to our second community forum for this year. I do want to take a few minutes and just do a few introductions. It's not really a few, it's a lot. And I'm looking around the room because everyone's moved since they walked in. But I'm going to start off with our board president who's here tonight, Allison Nernbaum. She's here. Allison, thank you for being here. In addition to our board, John Dahl, Dr. Rohr, Amanda Graff-Hurst is here, and Megan Sparks is also committed. So thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you being here. Also want to just take a minute to thank our central office team for being here. Dan Tarpey, Assistant Superintendent, is here. Becky Furby, our Director of Special Education. Tammy Durr, our Director of Student Services. Like I said, they're all moving around. Adam Trello, Director of Secondary Curriculum. Sri Kalapi, Director of Elementary Curriculum. And Sarah Swan, Director of Communications. And I think I covered everybody in the office. So, again, Shannon Morgan, the famous guy who takes care of all of our technology. So thank you, Shannon, for being here as well.
great.
So tonight, we want to just take some time to share with all of you some of the factual information that we've been sharing all along throughout the last few months, back in December, all the way through now in our community forums. Tonight, just to kind of go back and talk a little bit about where we've gone or where we've come from and where we're trying to go moving forward. Since the levy in November, on the November ballot, was rejected by voters, we've been discussing as a team, as a community, as a group, how do we move forward. We had 2 community meetings we held in December, gave us a better insight into questions, concerns surrounding school finances, and what we need to do to continue to keep our collaboration amongst the community and maintain open communications with our community. Tonight, as I mentioned, is our second community forum for this year. We are planning to share with you why we are returning to the ballot back in March and what those additional funds will be used for and how much the levy would cost property owners moving forward. First, we want to share some basic facts about school funding as we feel this will explain why school districts have returned back to the ballot. And I'm going to turn it over to Laura Salver, and she'll take over from here for now.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. We'll just go over a few basics in terms of school funding. I like to call it School Funding 101. But where does the majority of our revenue come from as a school district? And for us at Centerville, that is property taxes. We do receive some state funding, but that's a pretty small portion of our total revenue. We're considered in the state of Ohio to be a high wealth district, both in terms of property value and in terms of income, the residents' income. And so that puts us on a pretty limited amount of state funding. I can talk for hours about the state funding system. I'm not going to do that tonight, but we are what's called to be on a guarantee. So we receive pretty much the same amount of money from the state from one year to the next. And so we're very reliant on the property tax revenue that we receive from one year to the next. So what does our operating revenue do? It supports all of our day-to-day operations throughout the district. And so it's used to pay for our staff, our teachers, as custodians, bus drivers, administrators. It pays for our staff members. And it also supplies things in the classrooms, so materials and supplies, our bus fuel for our buses, repairs to those buses, utilities, and the list goes on in terms of what those day-to-day operations are. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. There is a state law in place called House Bill 920. It was enacted in 1976. And it was put in place actually to protect the taxpayers from large increases in taxes when property values go up. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to get into it real in depth tonight, but I do want to, I guess, just get the point across that because of House Bill 920, on any voted levy that we've passed as a district in the past, we receive the same amount of money on that from one year to the next. We never generate additional revenue on those tax dollars. There's a few small exceptions inside millage and new construction, but that's not the majority of that revenue. So for the most part, that revenue stays very flat. So just to talk a little, the reappraisal in the fall, and even now, it has been a big topic. It's been in the paper. There's been just a lot of talk about that. And again, the voted levies, that's the biggest share of the property taxes that we receive. And I mentioned, because of House Bill 920, we receive the same amount of money from one year to the next on those voted levies. But as an individual, your property is going to do different things. And so if your property value goes up more than the average, you're going to see probably a higher increase than others. And so I have a table up here which is on our website. I presented in great detail really about this in January to the Board of Education. There's videos out there. If you're interested in this, I encourage you to watch it because it does explain in detail what happens. But I have 3 parcels in Centerville and Washington Township displayed here. Every person's value here went up. Okay, so everybody saw an increase in their value, but different increases. A 52% increase, a 31% increase, and a 17% increase. And this is just 3 examples. All of yours may have done something completely different. The person whose value went up 52%, their voted the tax they're paying on those voted levies, it increased. They're paying more because their valuation went up more than the average. The taxpayer B that's listed there, they saw virtually no change in those voted levies because their property increased the same amount as the average in the district. The third person there, they saw an increase in value, but they're actually paying less tax because again, as a district, as a whole, we receive that same amount of money from one year to the next. So it's complex. The property tax system is a complex system, but it's been in place a really long time, and we've been doing our best to try to educate because the property reappraisal here in 2023 was truly historical in terms of the rates, and this is happening all over Ohio. So Montgomery County is in Centerville and Washington Township. We are not alone. There are some communities and counties that are seeing 40% increases and even higher total increases in their property value. So this is a long-standing historical chart of our cash balance in our operating fund as a percentage of what our total expenses are. And you can see that it goes up and down. So some years we operate at what I call a surplus, where our revenue exceeds what our expenses are, and we build that cash balance. We increase our savings account, so to speak. And then other times, as we get further into what I call a levy cycle, so after a levy's passed, we start to, the expenses catch up to what that stagnant revenue is, and we start to deficit spend. And so we dip into that savings account and use some of that cash balance. And so you can see the green arrows up there that are the different years that we passed additional levies for new operating expenses. You can see the red circle there, that's 2024. We're projecting that cash balance is going to continue to go down. And again, it's because we're on the back end of a levy cycle. That is a very normal pattern that school districts see. I did want to show a comparison. This is the previous 5 years, the exact same statistic. It's the cash balance as a percentage of our total expenses. One of the questions that I've been getting a lot, and I think Mr. Wesley has been getting a lot, is, well, you have this big cash carryover balance from one year to the next. We are the blue line, okay? So that is our percentage. That bottom line is Centerville schools. The green line is all traditional schools in the state of Ohio. So every school like us, big or small, it doesn't matter, all 600 plus school districts, that is the average cash balance as a percentage of expenses for those districts. And then the red line is the top line, that's Montgomery County specific. So again, we're trying to respond to questions that we're getting, and this is, us just trying to explain to people that, yes, we do have a cash balance, but relative to what other districts are showing, our cash balance actually is a little bit on the low side from a percentage standpoint. We are required as a school district to publish a 5-year forecast twice a year. Our most recent forecast was submitted to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce in November. So November is the first filing, and we will file a revision in May. So what I want to point, oh, I didn't know, sorry. What I want to point out, the numbers are small and the numbers aren't the important piece. The red circle there, that particular line item, that is, are we operating at a surplus or a deficit? And I talked a little bit about what that means. And so in 2021 and 2022, we operated at a surplus. That was after passing the 2019 levy. And then last year, we started to operate at a deficit. And again, that's typical because the expenses catch up because of inflation. And so we are projecting the deficit spend in 2024 by close to $4 million. And so we're dipping into that cash balance. And we can only do that for so long. And our options there, our choices, is to increase our revenue, which for us as a school district is to ask the community to consider a levy, which is why we're, part of why we're here tonight. And then the other option is to reduce our expenses and to make cuts in our budget. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Essing.
There seems to be a question on that. You said you only have school methods that are increasing in income. If you remember correctly, that in 2012, we passed the lottery, and that was supposed to solve all taxation problems for the state of Ohio. Now, I do understand that probably has not, because I do believe that the lottery pays out over 70% to the ticket holders, and about 10 to 15% goes to operating costs. So it means that the city or the state or the school district probably get only 10 or 12% of that. Is that correct?
We get about $500,000 a year in casino revenue. It's very, very small in terms of our whole budget.
Maybe a good idea would be to ask them to give us more. They lied to us when they said that this would solve the problem.
We agree, and we have some more information to share, and we'll take some more questions towards the end of the night, but thank you. The levy in March, on the March ballot, is for operating funds, and we've shared that, and we also want to share what those funds will be used for and what happens if the levy doesn't pass. For district expenses, we want to take a closer look tonight at our operating funds, and again, how we're going to use those operating funds moving forward. Mrs. Sauber mentioned state law freezes the amount of revenue school districts receive on voted millage, which makes it difficult to keep up with rising costs and doing business. The next few slides, we're going to cover the district's day-to-day expenses and what that looks like. We're trying to do all of that with our operating funds and keeping in mind of our mission to empower, challenge our students every day to be learners. So the primary need for additional funding is to maintain quality of educational programming and services. Over the years, our district has performed very well on the state report card. As most of you know, we had a 5-star rating on the report card this fall. It's our job as educators to meet our students where they are and to help them grow academically moving forward. This requires staffing of our schools to be appropriate at the appropriate levels and maintaining responsible class sizes or reasonable class sizes. Training staff members is an important part of what we do each and every year. Buying curriculum materials, classroom supplies, and many more items that the funding will be used to help support. We've talked really for over a year now how students' mental health affects their educational experience. their academic achievement and school safety. K-12 schools are facing unprecedented levels of mental health challenges. That trend began long before the pandemic, and we're still seeing and working with students in those areas to provide them the continued support that they need. Our schools provide wraparound services and support for students and families as they navigate some of these challenges, which can affect their academic performance and in some cases impact their school safety and security. So in addition to classroom teachers, this support is provided by school counselors, our nurses, our school psychologists, principals, resource officers, and much more in those areas for students. Additional expenses, we need to continue to offer college and career pathways that prepare graduates to be responsible members of our community. It's really our goal, and what we want to do with all of our students who graduate from Centerville High School is to be able to contribute back to the workforce. We have received several questions over the last few weeks about AP programming, career education classes at Centerville High School. So we want to take a few minutes tonight to share some of that information with you. About 90% of our seniors have reported that they plan to attend a 2- or 4-year college once they leave Centerville High School. We have a rigorous academic program to help prepare them for that pathway to be successful. Over the last few years, we've adjusted our course offerings at the high school to increase AP courses. We went from 18 courses in 2019 to over 27 courses this year, and we did that without hiring additional staff or new teachers. The College Board research shows that students who take AP courses and exams are more likely than their peers to be successful as they be able to get a college degree on time. Students who pass AP exams, which are paid by their families, often receive college credit. That's a given credit not only in the state, but is also transferable outside the state. State law requires public schools to offer career education programs. Programming that we have at Centerville High School, we have to either provide that locally or we have to send our students to a career technical center. And for us, the closest career technical center in Montgomery County is Miami Valley CTC, which is up in Inglewood. So in the early 70s, we partnered with Kettering and Oakwood schools to form our own career technical compact, which has allowed us to have our own career education programs. It's allowed us to be fiscally responsible. It's a great decision for us because it allows us to keep our tax dollars local. The local tax dollars stay here in Centerville, Washington Township, rather than going to Miami Valley CTC. Taxpayers in other communities right now are currently paying about 2.99 mils to Miami Valley CTC for this tax year, which is in addition to the millage that they are currently paying for their own public schools in their area. The 2.99 mils would equal approximately $8.5 million here locally. So we have the opportunity, because we have the programs at Centerville High School and a partnership with Kettering and Oakwood City Schools, that we can keep the other tax dollars here. This partnership keeps career education programs accessible to our students. We have about 500 students approximately that are in career education programs. I'm not sure that we get 500 students to get on a bus to go all the way up to Inglewood to take career education programs. And so it's been a great opportunity, a great partnership, and a huge thanks to previous administrations that allowed us to be able to have those career education programs. For some of our families are taking advantage of College Credit Plus, which is a state requirement that comes with no additional state funding. Whether courses are offered at CHS or not, by law, students are eligible to take CCP or college prep courses at no cost to their family and at any public college university, so long as they meet the institutional requirements for acceptance. School districts do have the option to offer College Credit Plus courses within their high school because of the costs associated with College Credit Plus, college tuition, the books, paying for our own teaching staff. CHS has elected to offer a small number of those courses for our students on our own campus. And so it makes it more valuable, I think, for our students and for the district. College Credit Plus credits are not always accepted by colleges and universities, especially outside the state of Ohio. The cost of the College Credit Plus courses and the limitations of the transfer of the credit has led CHS to focus more on our AP programming. And we've seen a huge increase in the number of our students taking more AP courses. The bottom line, students earn credits to graduate, and we have to find a way for them to take the certain courses that they need. If they weren't taking AP or career education type courses, they would be enrolled in courses to make sure that they got the credits they need to graduate. Several schools are also known for going above and beyond the basic requirements, which makes our district a great place for our students and for our community. And so just a few additional district expenses to kind of share. As many of school districts across the state, the majority of the district's budget is spent on salaries and benefits for all staff. We need the right staff in place to make sure that we can provide a well-rounded education for our students and have the right staff in place to meet the needs of all of our students here in Central Washington Township. Every year, we work hard to make sure we are appropriately staffed across the district. We do a tremendous job from our HR department to go out and recruit at the college level to make sure that we get the opportunities to get the right staff in place. And it's important for us to continue to do that, and that's one of the biggest reasons why we're back asking for the money to make sure that we can keep our staff and quality staff in place to meet the needs of our students and our enrollment. We're also dealing with aging facilities. As you've probably heard or read about, the average age of our buildings across the district is now 59, 60 years old. Magzik, as you probably heard, is 100 years old this year. The last major renovation to our buildings took place after a bond that was passed in 2005. In that bond, we were able to remodel and do remodeling projects. Were completed at every school across the district. In 2020 and 2021, we conducted an assessment of all of our facilities, which provided us with about 2,700 pages of maintenance, records, timelines, and costs for future projects that need to be completed across the district. Our business department uses the information to prioritize our projects that need to be completed. The majority of these projects are paid through the district's permanent improvement fund, which is a separate fund that is used to pay for equipment, school repair, school facility projects. Although we are asking on this March ballot, the operation funds, we can still use operation funds, can be earmarked for expenses towards facilities and maintenance. We also continue to implement safety and security measures. That's obviously been an important topic for us over the last several years. We've added a lot more security cameras across the district. We have a visitor management system now in all of our buildings when you come in and sign in, access to controls at our doors, and many more different types of security features that we've added to our buildings. We've been able to do a lot of our security work and projects because we received an $850,000 grant to help support that. So not only are we, I think we are good stewards of the taxpayer money, but we're also looking at ways to find other avenues of revenue to support some of the projects that we need, or the need for some of those projects across the district. Operating funds are also used for all materials to keep our school district running. This includes things like utilities, trash, recycling pickup, bus fuel, paper and copier supplies, internet services, and electronic systems for student data and communications with families, just to name a few. Schools are not immune to rising costs. Just an example, the cost of a 72-passenger bus has risen over 39% over the last 4 years, and the price of bus fuel is even 55% higher. So just to give you an idea of numbers, the cost of the district, about $300,000 more in bus fuel last year for the similar amount of trips that took place last year. We've mentioned that our state funding remains relatively flat from year to year, but additional requirements are added to the district's plate regularly that we have to keep up with. College Credit Plus is one of those examples that we've talked about already tonight. Another example to share with you is our Gifted program. Our Gifted identification, we are required to provide services for all students who have been identified as gifted. We have close to 30% of our students in Centerville who have been identified as gifted students, and we provide professional development for teachers who work with them. We spent more than $1.1 million in fiscal year '23, but only received about a quarter of that in state funding. So again, another mandate that we have to maintain and keep, but yet we don't get the matching funds from the state. There are many more unfunded and underfunded state mandates that we must follow, and we'll continue to do that and to meet the needs and requirements from the state of Ohio. Because the March levy is a reduced ask from the failed November request, we've also been looking at reductions in all areas of our operations and through all parts of our programs. As we've looked at those potential reductions, our team has tried to keep in mind some guiding principles. And in those guiding principles, we looked at incorporating feedback that we received from meetings like this tonight, minimizing the impact to the classroom by realizing that any cuts that we make will be a reduction in a service or the services and will impact the quality of education of our students receive. We tried thinking outside the box, looking not just at positions or other ways to save money, but we looked at contracts, services that we have for either copiers or equipment services that we have that we continue to need across the district, and also looked at increasing fees for various student fees across the district. We've rolled out a reduction plan. This phased reduction plan was approved by the Board of Education in January. This slide shows the total number of positions that will be reduced in this phase. You can see the anticipated savings to the district's general fund, which includes other cost savings in addition to the personnel reductions. Phase one, nearly $1.3 million in reductions will be made for the 24-25 school year. Phase one has a lot to do with our resignations and retirements and where we can really cut back and save in those areas of our operation. If the levy would happen to fail in March, we would look at incorporating phase two, which is an additional $1.6 million that would be cut again if the levy fails in March. You can see a lot more information about our reductions and about our phased-in plan on our district website. You can go to Centerville.com, Centerville.k12.oh.us/levy. A great page of frequently asked questions. I've tried to emphasize that as much as I can because I think Sarah Swan has done a great job of putting a lot of information out there about the district and about a lot of questions that we've been receiving about this campaign. Again, if the levy fails in March, how will this impact our students, our teachers, and our families? And that's a question that we received several times over the last several weeks from many people across the community. While we'll try to minimize the impact on our classrooms, if we reduce personnel, it will have an effect on the quality of our educational programs and the services that we provide to our students. And I think sometimes it's important to share that, and we've talked about that in a variety of different ways. If we cut support staff positions, classroom teachers will have to provide that ongoing support that takes place, which takes them away from the classroom and from the learning experience from our students. For example, in some cases, we have support staff who have supervision duties throughout the school day. By reducing those positions, teachers are going to be pulled to do some of that supervision. By reducing those positions and moving teachers to do additional duties outside the classroom, this takes them away from the time that they are meeting with kids and responding to parents. Whenever we lose classroom teachers, that results in larger class sizes. For example, if we reduce the number of PE teachers in our middle schools, we're looking at about a 20% increase in our class sizes for physical education, which is a required course that we have to provide. There are still state requirements that must be provided, but without additional revenue, we'll have to limit some of the learning supports, personalized instruction, and the elective choices for our students to take. We would also be increasing several different types of fees for our families, and we've talked about that, how that might impact some of our organizations, whether it's some of our clubs or pay-to-pay participation fees. and even our rental fees for our facilities.
So just to review a few of the specifics about how much the levy will cost. As Mr. Westney mentioned, after the November levy failed, we talked to the staff. We went out to every school and talked to the staff members. We had some community forums to try to get information back on district finances. Based on that information, we made a recommendation in December to the Board of Education that we ask for a 3.9 mil operating levy instead of the 5.9 mil combined levy that we had asked for in November. Now, part of that is because the valuation increased, so the millage amount came down, but the ask is for less. Instead of $12.9 million a year in combined operating and permanent improvement revenue, we're asking for $11.2 million per year in operating costs only. So that is the difference between the November and the March request. The cost of that is per $100,000 of home value, and this is the new value. So whatever your new value that you just received starting in January, it's $11.40 per month is how much that equates to per 100,000. So there are ways that you can look that cost up. There's a levy estimator on the county auditor's website, and you can also look at our webpage on that, the levy webpage that Mr. Westney mentioned in the FAQ section, and we have a formula there that you can plug your value in and take a look at that. And I believe we're going to be putting out a Finance Friday video next week that's going to actually explain how you go and find that information for your own individual property.
So as we wrap up our presentation tonight, just want to say thank you. We've been able to share a lot of information with all of you. And so we're going to give you an opportunity to ask questions. I know we have a sign-in sheet. If I can get that sign-in sheet, if it's made its way up here, we'll start that in just a few minutes. But before we start that process, one of the questions that we received in the last community forum, and we continue to get a lot of questions about, are we having conversations with our state legislatures? And are we reaching out and trying to make the change from a state level? And the question to that answer is yes, we do. We do that quite often. Last week, there was about 16 superintendents and treasurers in Montgomery County that met with the 4 state representatives for Montgomery County. Tom Young was there. Laura and I had an opportunity to meet with them. We talked about school finance and how that impacts our districts. And so we do take the opportunity to meet with our state legislators. They were invited tonight, but we also want to provide you that opportunity, that you had their contact information. We said we would share that contact information with our community night, and so that you have that if you need that as well. But just as a question that we get, we do take a lot of time to reach out to our state legislatures and to talk to them about our concerns with state funding. With that being said, we appreciate it. We're going to go to our open session now and allow people to come up front and talk and give their feedback. We have a process in place. We're going to start off with those who have signed up first, and then we'll go from there as we move forward. So I'd like to call Bob Daly. I think he wants to come to the podium and speak, and so we'll get out of his way.
Thank you very much. I'm Bob Daly. I live at 8433 Mountain View Circle. To put my remarks in perspective requires a bit of background. In 1957, I was a young reporter for the Dayton Journal-Herald. My first assignment was to cover Centerville and Washington Township. There was no city hall at that time, nor township government center. High school was on West Franklin Street, across from the Wishing Well, the site of our community's first high school. There was no Centerville Washington Park District. Americana had not been thought of. My wife and I, along with our 2 children, moved to Centerville and Washington Township in 1977. Benham's Grove was so overgrown you couldn't see what was back there. City Hall, the township's government center, had been built. The park district was on its way to 50 parks. Buildings, on its way to 50 parks. 2 library buildings were on the horizon in this rapidly growing suburb. Stubbs Park and the rec center came online. Americana had replaced the Ox Road. So, where are we today in this development of this magnificent community? The township has recently dedicated a new fire station and is dredging the ponds at the rec center. Centerville's uptown is booming, Stubbs Park is being updated, and Benham's Grove is expanding. Everything in our community seems to be coming up roses. But what is missing is the educational well-being of our most precious treasure, our children and grandchildren. Because the November school levy was defeated, the March levy has been reduced and will provide less. Already, programs have been cut, and more cuts will come if the levy is defeated. How can that be? Don't we all want a better life for our children and grandchildren? Since 1796, many thousands of people have built this community. Thousands of administrators and teachers have gone before us and created the 5-star Centerville schools we have. It is up to us to keep it running at full speed. And the best way for us to do that by March 19 is to vote yes on the school levy. We will be further engaged in educating our children and grandchildren so their lives will be as enriched as they possibly can be. Thank you.
John Pears.
All right, hello, my name is John Ferris. I live at 1164 Sarah Freeman Drive in Washington Township. I grew up here in Centerville in Washington Township. I personally benefited from all those before that gave all the opportunities to myself. I currently have 2 children in the schools. I have nieces, nephews in the schools. They are in extracurricular activities. They are in the fine arts programs. My daughter came home, she got into one of the career ed programs. She is proud and ecstatic. We need to continue to offer all these opportunities to all of these kids. One of the things that were brought up was mental health. Children, when they feel like they belong, it does wonders for their mental health. We have thousands and thousands of children in these schools, and to do everything we can to give them an opportunity to feel like they belong. It was done for me. We need to do it for them. Board, thank you so much for the recent security upgrades that you have made to the buildings. As a parent of kids in those buildings, it puts so much ease in my own mind. Now, I will say, it is much harder to get into those buildings for extracurricular activities. Many of us know the back way in to get into basketball games, and we can't really do that anymore. But what you have implemented is doing what you have set up for. Is making it harder to get into those buildings because the most precious asset of our community is in those buildings. My parents grew up here. They brought us back. My wife and I came back because this community supports the opportunities for these kids. I urge you to consider voting yes for this levy. Thank you.
Thank Susan Redmond? Yes. absolutely.
Hi. I've just come to ask a couple of questions, or maybe two questions. When the levy didn't pass before, we received a flyer in the mail and it said vote for the levy. And in very small print, down below it said, money will be not spent for the athletic center. And I thought that was rather unusual that very little information was given to us before that vote. Is this athletic center still in the works? And I might, this is something that I don't know, that's why I'm here. I had heard that the school district owned the property that the fire station is built on, sold it to the township for $5 million, and has the money. My question is the athletic center going to be built? And was that money generated in the school system?
Good question. So first, let's talk about the athletic facility
And
first.
the other thing is, after this, I have another question too.
Okay, so the first question is, there was a building campaign for the athletic facilities that kicked off back last spring, April, May timeframe, with the idea of trying to raise money by the end of December for a new athletic facility at Centerville High School. Part of that was we had a group that came forward who wanted to donate and had pledged $1.5 million. We needed about another $3 million in the facility that they wanted to see built, or we wanted to see built. There was a campaign, we didn't raise the money, so we came out in early December, maybe it was mid-December, but I know we talked about in our board meeting, I believe it was December the 18th, and we shared specifically is that the campaign did not raise the funds for that facility, and that project has been stopped. It's not been moving forward. And there was never the intent to use district money to help with the construction costs of that facility. The plan for that facility was for the money to be donated, for that facility to be built. Obviously, the fundraising campaign didn't work out, and that facility is not being built.
And there will no, and that is not going to be built. I mean, that's
Has
dead on arrival.
has nothing to do with this
Because it probably
operating
wasn't
budget.
necessary to begin with, right?
I'm sorry?
Probably really wasn't necessary to begin with.
Well, I think there's a need for more space for some of our athletes and for some of our students to have the additional space that they need. But part of this project was the opportunity to be able to fundraise and to do a campaign for donations. And that didn't materialize the way we thought that we would receive some of those donations. And so that project has been stopped.
The other thing I just wanted to mention, and I appreciate what you discussed about the College Credit Plus and the original AP classes. I hope the system or Centerville uses due diligence and prudence in how they encourage or discourage 7th and 8th and 9th graders to take college classes. I love education. I am an educator. I do not want an 8th grader in my college freshman class. I want them to stay with you and your AP class.
Thank you, we do too. I think another part, the second part of your question is about the property. We do own the property next to Centerville High School. We did sell acreage back to Washington Township for the fire department. And so that was a process that we went through several years ago to help the fire station in Washington Township to be able to have that property to build it. Next tonight is Mark Carroll.
Oh,
The money.
hold on.
Sale.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't remember the exact sale price. Do you remember what that was?
I don't off the top of my head.
It was less, it was, I think, even less than $500,000. It wasn't even close to $5 million.
That's
Um,
what I'm hearing. That's
right.
what I heard.
And we were required by revised code to take that money and put it into our permanent improvement fund. And so that was revenue for one time. I mean, it was a single one-time sale that went into our permanent improvement fund and is used, it has been used in our permanent improvement fund.
Our next speaker on our list is Mark, is it
Carrera. My name is Mark Carrera, 20. Yes. I'm used to 208 Summerford Place. I am here to speak in favor of this levy. I think it's important for many of us. I think in the room there are probably a variety of reasons to support and to be against this levy. But the fact of the matter is that some of us lack the perspective. I think it's good to have individuals that have been here many, many years, generations. I myself grew up in a small West Texas town, graduated class of less than 100 people, and I will tell you that the opportunities that my 2 graduates from Centerville have had far outweigh anything that I could imagine when I was young. But the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, so it's not fact, it is my opinion, that this school district deserves our continued investment. And it's an unfortunate state of affairs where we do have to go to the taxpayers within the district every time. It's one of the only taxes that people feel they can vote against. And so people that don't like taxes are all about voting against this tax. But unfortunately, you know, it impacts our community directly. If you feel that you like your community, it is not just because of the neighborhood that you live in, but it's rather the schools, the police, the parks, the fire department, all of those levies that we have to pay to enjoy this community. I promise you, travel outside of Centerville and compare what we have in Centerville to many other communities, and you will be glad, or you should be glad, to live here and to have the opportunities that our children have here in this district. And by the way, as a side note, I have also had one of the greatest honors of my career is to serve as a middle school cross-country coach, which is funny for me to say, for the last 3 years here in Centerville. The support and the families and the athletes, I could not be more lucky, if that's the correct way of saying that, than I have been over these last 3 years. My sons, and continuing to live here, I just really feel, again, that the district deserves our continued support and our investment, because really that's what it is. It is an investment in our future and an investment in our present. So, thank you very much.
My name is Mark Inger, and I'm on Centerville City Council. And I'm here to tell everybody right now, this is the best damn school district in Southwest Ohio, without question. And it's that way because the parents and the children strive to be the best every day. All right? It's so imperative that we keep this school district fired up and moving forward. And I would even say, let's get that new athletic center built, because we will fall behind the other districts that we compete against, the Masons. All right? I have results of a survey that the city of Centerville does every year. Without question, the overwhelming reason people come to our community is because of the schools. We have the best police department, we have the best parks, we have the best libraries. Those pale into comparison to the reasons people come here. It's to educate their children. It is our responsibility. I have 2 daughters that graduated from here. Our responsibility is to guarantee that the next people coming through this district have the same opportunities. And if you don't have children yet and you live here, you have to maintain and strive to ever get better for them to, when they come here, that their opportunities are realized. All right? So, without question, get out there and push people to vote yes. This shouldn't even be up here. These guys do a fabulous job every day. Every day they come here, they look at things, they make things better. I'm proud that our oldest building's 99 years old. Take a look at Cincinnati. They just spent $1 billion redoing their schools, and they fail. They fail. They can't even get their kids to come to school. Hell, we have a problem getting the kids into the buildings because they want to get in there so fast. We are truly the top 5% in the world. If you take a look at what we have, let's protect it. because this is Centerville.
Douglas? Do we have any other questions?
Can I speak for a second? Hello? Oh, that's loud. Hello. My name is Anthony Henderson. I am a sophomore in Centerville High School. I'm looking around this room right now, and I notice, I think I'm the only student here. Oh, okay, never mind. I see a few other students here. I failed to notice you guys. But I think it's interesting because we have the perspective of people who have children and have people who graduated. But I'd like to speak from my experience for a second. I'm being completely honest. I wasn't planning to speak until about 5 seconds ago. I went to this school. In fact, some of my teachers are here. Some of my counselors are here. Some of my current principals are here. I know what it's like when a levy doesn't pass because I experienced it firsthand. I saw what happened when all the teachers started panicking, and it was disappointing. I think that for people, how to explain this? I'm a wrestler, and as a wrestler, I go to different schools for wrestling meets. I see what happens when they are underfunded. I also see what happens when they are well-funded. I've walked into schools and been like, this is an amazing school, and said the exact opposite for others. I want you to think about it like this. If your kid is coming here, do you want them to be proud of the school or not? Because I do not want to be, when I'm walking into something for wrestling meet, I do not think you guys want me to say, I would much rather be here. Because I'm going to be completely honest, I would much rather be in this school than any other school. And I want to be proud of that.
My name is Will Manning. I live on 7216 Mountain Trail, Washington Township. I'm pretty new to the community, unlike many of you. I came here in April of 2019 from Texas, and I fell in love with the community and the parks and the schools and all the benefits that come along with living here, just as all you have talked about this evening, the exact same way. However, COVID happened just after we got here, right? We all are experiencing inflation. The cost of living has gone up. Eggs are no longer $1 a carton. Right? So the thing, and my kids are 8, 6, and 2, so we're relatively young into the school district. We're experiencing all the benefits of the community right now. The problem I have right now is I still have to pay daycare. I have $30,000 I paid last year in daycare. $30,000. That is the reason why I'm a no on this right now, because I can't afford it anymore. I want to give more. I want to say yes, but I physically cannot. The only thing I guess I'm thinking right now is what's happening with our kindergarten class, and why is it half day when Kettering right next door is full day? If it was full day, I would say yes, put that money into my school district. I have extra to spend at that point, yes, but I do not. So I'll just say, is there more schools being built to accommodate larger school class sizes because we have to go to half day, is what I'm understanding? So if that's the case, then I will gladly switch my vote to yes, if that's in the works, right? But right now, this extra, for me particularly, $410 a year, I can't squeeze that. I'm gonna put that all into food and utilities and my mortgage and other things, even as a dual income family. So hopefully, if that's the case, I can say yes tonight after leaving, but unfortunately, I'm still without. Thank you.
Teresa Faust, I live at 964 Greatview Circle. I grew up in Centerville. I moved here in 1976, so sir, when you were talking about things, you really got me going. I'm glad you started out the talk tonight. I graduated from Centerville. I have 2 sons who graduated from Centerville. I have nieces and nephews that go here now. I love the community. I like the school, but I'm going to mirror what this gentleman said and say, right now I'm voting against this because I'm not convinced that we're not going to be here again in a couple of years. And I admit I don't understand all the financial levy 101 that I've listened to it several times. I graduated from Centerville, so I think I'm average intelligence, but I just don't get it. and I'm not convinced we're not going to be here again. So that's where I am. I realize that we can't predict things. I was in a class recently that they use this term VUCA, VUCA. Maybe some of you have heard it. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and I honestly don't remember what the A stood for. But that's the world we live in. I'd like us to look at what our mission statement is and stick to doing what we're supposed to be doing as a school, and maybe look at what is essential and do that extremely well, and not do all the other stuff. I hear you when you mentioned the state, because that was on my list. The big theme is, why do we have all these requirements, and what are we doing to make sure the state is telling us what to do in our community? So I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I live in the community, and I want the school to be strong, and I want kids to be proud of their school, but you're here to get an education and be a good person. The other stuff is extra. That's why it's called extracurricular, and I know I benefited from that. I also went to school at a time where for a couple of years I don't think we could go on field trips, but I don't think it damaged me permanently, and I think if some of us have to give up some comfort, that might not be a bad thing either. Thank you.
My name is Matt Kokensberger. I live at 2800 Nobleton Circle in Centerville. I'm currently employed as a custodian for the district, and I am the father of 2 CHS grads, so I have seen both sides. When we moved to Centerville 27 years ago, my kids, Centerville's reputation was a big factor in that decision. My kids received a great education at Centerville that prepared them to move on to the next phase of their lives. And they had teachers every step of the way who went above and beyond to help them succeed as students. In fact, my daughter has such great role models here. She is now in her 7th year of teaching in a different district. Okay, that's the parent part. Now the employee part. I started as a substitute custodian 18 years ago. The district utilizes subs to keep overtime costs down. In my time here, I've worked in every building in the district, and I have observed a lot. A lot of teachers and staff putting in countless hours so the students of this community can thrive. I currently work at Weller and Normandy Elementaries, and I see teachers working past their required hours every day to make sure they give our children the best education they can. One teacher I've gotten to know is near retirement. When others might be tempted at that stage of their career to do the bare minimum, I still see her staying late almost every night. This is the level of dedication I see at CCS. I also see them applying for grants, which is often a very time-consuming venture, in order to enrich their students in learning. One 2nd grade teacher who I can attest is already super busy with all the committees and organizations she serves, recently sought out and obtained a grant to purchase Braille materials for one of her students who is visually impaired. It bears mentioning that many of the teachers also spend their own money for materials to enrich student learning. My point is, these teachers and staff members are putting in the work and giving our youngest citizens their very best. It is always unfortunate when our taxes increase. But I firmly believe that any community that doesn't place schools among its top priorities will begin to see the quality of life in that community begin to suffer. I ask that you strongly consider supporting this levy. Thank you.
Hello, Ben Barlow, 9604 Ridewood Trail. Sorry, I get a little nervous sometimes. The reason I echo with the no's, just because of the money that we're already spending, taxes, student fees. I mean, I paid out $1,700 worth of student fees. I mean, we say that the money is gonna bring down costs for sports, but I mean, $1,700 I had to come out of my pocket just for student fees. So that's pretty frustrating. Second part, school taxes going up, property taxes. I understand this gentleman talking about students working, or teachers working long hours, so do parents, Kids come home, they're learning on laptops now. I have to try to explain Common Core math to my son, or the different math to my son that I don't understand. So now I'm staying up, working long hours after working 40 hours, after paying taxes, after paying raised utilities, after everything else. So it's no for me.
My name is Doug Halterman, and I have a 1344 Yankee Vineyards. It's a small condo complex, has 50 doubles in it. It's just south of Lyons Road, 30 years old. So I got my real estate tax bill, and my school taxes went up, even though my valuation was like 29% higher. So I don't understand your graph that says people with 31.7, their taxes didn't go up. Mine went up, okay? So looking at that. A little bit about me, I grew up in a small town, graduated from a small school, 60 people in my graduating class. I worked my way through Ohio State. Took me 8 years, but I worked a full-time job and went to school part-time until I had to go full-time just to finish up all the courses. My kids went to Miami East High School. My daughter graduated from Miami of Ohio with a finance and marketing degree, and my son graduated from Wright State cum laude with a computer science degree. So I know about education, and I appreciate education, okay? I lived up by Troy, by Miami East, for 38 years. And I moved down to Washington Township so I could be close to my grandkids. Now, I don't have an emotional attachment to Centerville schools. I didn't go to Centerville, my wife didn't go to Centerville, my kids didn't go to Centerville. My grandkids do not go to Centerville, okay? They go to a parochial school, a Catholic parochial school. And my daughter doesn't live in Montgomery County. Now, one thing I like to indicate is that when I look up the taxes by county, Montgomery County is either first or second in the state in the amount of taxes paid. It's either Cuyahoga County, Cleveland, or Montgomery County. So we're already a high tax county, okay? Plus, I have actual figures here of my cost. I'm 77 years old. I moved here at 67, again, to be close to my grandkids and all the sports they play. My heating bill has gone up 41% in the last 2 years. And I'm old, so I like a little warmer. It could be lower, but I don't know how many coats I'm going to throw on. My electricity went up 28%. My home insurance went up 61%. All of a sudden, my insurance guy says, hey, you need to replace your stuff. It burns down. I'm going, I'd replace with old stuff. No, you probably replace with new stuff, so you need higher premiums. My health insurance has gone up 21%. To me, it's a cash issue. I'm living on fixed income, Social Security, IRA, or any money I've been able to invest in the market, which has gone down. Was down, what? 2 years ago, it was down 20%. Now it's down 10%. So I have actually cut my withdrawal from any accounts that have money in half, just to slow my spending down. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live, but I need money to live. So I have a couple questions. What is your cash balance now in dollars?
I'm going to go back to the slide to make sure I don't.
I couldn't read any numbers up there.
So we ended, we're projecting at the end of this year to have about $29 million at the end of this year.
Okay, that's why I came up with that.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that even with the property value increases, that you get no new net revenues? Is that correct?
We get inside millage. I mentioned that, inside millage. So every taxpayer pays 10 mills. That happens, and that's part of law. That was nothing that any community voted in. Okay, so every community member pays 10 mills. That 10 mills is divided up between the different public entities. So Montgomery County keeps some, school districts get some, cities or townships get some depending on where you live, and it's different for each community, okay? So that grows as inflation, as property values grow. And so yes, we do receive some additional revenue for inside millage, and that is built into our projections.
So how much of money is that?
It's going to be between $4 and $5 million, depending on how the collections come in.
So $5 million. So you're actually asking for more money than you did in last year's levy, right?
No, because we were already factoring in that increase even with last year's levy. This 5-year forecast was submitted before the November, well, actually just after, but we have these projections in place before the November levy.
Okay, but you are getting $5 million more. Okay. Have you ever considered an income tax just to relieve some of the pressure off the senior citizens? Wouldn't have to be a lot.
We've talked about an income tax. Typically, around the state, if you look at the school districts that have an income tax, they're very rural. So in Montgomery County, it's Valley View and it's New Lebanon. And so that typically is more attractive to the farming, the agricultural communities. So it's something that we have talked about. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but they typically are not successful. Vandalia just tried to pass an income tax. Vandalia's Butler schools tried to pass one, and they were not successful back in May. It's been almost a year ago.
Okay. What percentage of the residents of Washington Township, Centerville are over 67 years old? Is it a third, 33%?
I don't know.
I think it's about a third, okay? So that's why I'm speaking. There's a third of your voters out there that are going, whoa, I want a fixed income, and this is not feeling good to me because all my other taxes went up too. Okay, so that's the reason I want to know, okay? I'm for education, but there's only so much money in the budget, okay? Thank you.
Hey, Laura, so the $5 million inside millage, we're not getting $5 million more, that's the total amount we're getting?
No, it's an increase.
An increase of $5 million for what year? Next year?
We'll get half of that in fiscal year 24 of that inside millage will happen in the current school year. Taxes are on a calendar year. We operate on what's called a fiscal year, which is the academic year. And so we'll see half of that increase in 24 with full increase in school year 24-25.
My name's Laura Williams, and I live on Milton Drive, and I'm sorry I'm very much not listening to this gentleman. I was supposed to be here with my mom tonight, who is 82 years old, living in a home that she intended to live in until she passed away or couldn't live independently anymore. I'm 62. I graduated from Centerville, been here since '75, except minor trip out to go to college, out of state. I bought my home. It was literally down the street from the home that I grew up in here from '75 onward, intending to pay my home off, again, stay in the home, so that when I retired, the only thing I had to worry about in terms of having a roof over my head was property taxes, some maintenance and insurance. But my mom is now at a point where every time she has to withdraw money from her savings account to pay her property taxes, she worries that that money's going to run out before her life runs out. And she's not the only one. She lives in an area that is primarily seniors. A lot of them, fortunately, still have their spouses, and so they have 2 sets of Social Security coming in. But 4 of the people that are directly around her are all widows. They have 1 Social Security check coming in. And for them to add another $300-400 onto what they spend, I mean, $35 a month isn't a big deal for a lot of people in Centerville. A lot of people, that's what they spend on Starbucks every single week. But you're talking about people who have cut back on their groceries just to not have to withdraw money from savings that they might need 10 years from now if they're still blessed enough to be alive. She's not here with me tonight because she wasn't feeling well enough. And so I wasn't going to say anything because I spoke at one of these before, but it's really important to remember that there are a lot of people who grew up here. They paid property taxes when my brothers and I were in school in the 70s and 80s. She's paid it for 4 decades since then, with just a little bit of grumbling like the rest of us. But now she's at a point where she can't do it. It's too much. And I think that the only reason that she was going to come here was that I told her that at the other meeting I was at, we were basically told that yes, every 4 to 5 years there's going to be another levy because of that cycle. And that depressed her. I mean, seriously depressed her. She's like, okay, we fight through this one, and then in 4 years we've got to have another fight on our hands. And how much does it go up then in 4 years? How much does it go up in 8 years? So I would just urge you to consider the fact that there are a lot of seniors here. There are a lot of people who grew up here, raised their kids here, and want to stay in their homes. They don't want to have to leave their homes and leave what little support system they have left, which are usually the other retired people in their communities, to go someplace else.
Thank you. I wasn't going to speak tonight because I often speak at these meetings, but I want to start by saying I support the school district. I want our children to learn and be educated and be good, productive citizens in the world. I do not dispute the fact that our teachers go above and beyond and are dedicated people as well as our administrative staff. But my concern is purely financial. We talk about all these things that are going to be cut, but the levy, the operating levy in 22 and 23 was 90% salary, 10% operating expenses, stuff, schools, fuel, I'm sorry, not schools, fuel, papers, whatever. So the first levy was 5.9 mils, was going to generate $12.9 million. So you apply the 90-10 rule, $11,600,000 was going to be salaries. The levy failed. So now we're back to 3.9 mils, and we're going to generate $11.2 million. And we're going to use the 90-10 rule. We're going to generate $10,080,000 from salaries. We lopped $1 million off of the salary structure by a defeated levy. It amazes me. I don't know what we're paying for. I shouldn't say that. I know we're paying for qualified people, but there's a point where the salary structure has got to be contained. This is not sustainable going forward. It's not sustainable now. When you talk about the levy cycle is really the contract cycle. What you're asking for is $10,080,000 to fund the new contract that comes into effect in June. I don't know that we can continue to do this. I am a no vote, but I support the school district. I support the people in it. I think you do a great job. You're just running me out of money.
So real quick, Mark Peters, 612 Penrith Drive. First of all, it's financial for me too. I'm actually very thankful I live here. 2008 Water House is now up 55%. That same house, Fairborn, it's up like 20%, 25%. My taxes, they're not up 55%. My taxes are up 30%. So first of all, we made an investment in the community to live here. That investment's paid off. One of that contract with this community is to be able to fund the schools, fund the things, fund the parks, fund the things that make this community great. So that's one of the things that we do.
The other issue I have is simply, we live in a state that believes in defunding the schools. We live in a state where the tax dollars will not stay within the Centerville community. And that's just wrong, unfortunately. Because that does put the burden on all of us. And that's just the reality of it. We have representatives and senators who don't care, who truly don't care about it, who don't fight for it. And I realize maybe Centerville's a little different. Maybe it's because of the rural states or the rural areas, who knows? But the reality is, when we look at the state government, it's very disappointing. The other thing I just want to say is, whenever we look at the stats, the 20%, I know I've seen on social media a lot of people talking about this cash balance. Whenever Laura talks about the fact that we have a 20% cash revenue, our cash balance as a percent of our total cost, what that's saying is that the school district is being fiscally responsible. They're not going out and overfunding this thing, right? They're not funding this thing at 50%, right? We're not holding the community's cash. But the reality is, every 4 years, because of the same model, we're going to be back there. And that's just the reality. That's very unfortunate. And I realize with COVID, there was definitely a hit. I mean, if you look at the curves, we didn't get the bump in 2020 after that 2019 levy. I'm assuming that's COVID. There was additional costs there. So maybe we are a little bit early this time coming back. But the reality is, that's the state that we've chosen to live in. And we're elected representatives who are not trying to fix this model. Thank you.
I'm State Representative Tom Young. I appreciate you guys being here tonight. I'll follow that one. So there is some relief, temporary relief coming. And that there are two bills, SB 187, HB 187, which would increase the homestead exemption for certain people who qualify. And so you might want to go online and look at that. We had a much better bill in the House. The Senate made some changes, but at least we feel that we can get that through. Again, this is a Band-Aid approach, right? Also, we have a bill in the committee right now in Ways and Means, which I serve on, and that's HB 263. And for those who are elderly, in certain fixed income brackets. It was initially called 70 years old, $70,000 worth of income. We've changed that, or $70,000 of property value or whatever it was. Well, we've changed that. We have a sub-bill, they call it, that is increasing the property value to be included in and lowering the age to be included in. At this point, it's at 65. We might drop it to 62. We'll just have to see how the numbers work, and that would that would freeze taxation, and there are other provisions in that particular piece of legislation. Again, it's a Band-Aid approach. I'm on the House and Senate Study Committee for Property Tax to review this complicated mess that we have since 1803. And one of the measures that is the toughest one is that we have in Montgomery County we are number one tied with Cuyahoga County, not number two. We have 98 taxing jurisdictions in Montgomery County and 99 what they call CAUV types of soil that are all taxed differently in Montgomery County. In this district, we have 10, in Centerville, Washington Township, 10 taxing jurisdictions, all from income tax to property tax. Rec, fire, police, roads, parks, library, and income tax, right? There may be the Montgomery County Human Services Levy, which they're putting in another 4 mil levy for that coming in the fall. Let me see what else. But anyway, it adds up, and they all run in cycles. So the challenge we have is
what menu of taxes do you get to choose, right? That's the frustration we're finding across the state of Ohio. People decide what they want to vote for, and unfortunately, the average turnout when they pass a levy is somewhere between 18 and 22%. Okay? When you have a huge turnout, it's rare. So the challenge we have in looking at the tax situation is how do we fund schools fairly? In 2021, we passed a new formula for schools, the first time in 24 years, and it at least set a baseline of income. In districts like Centerville, there's a calculation that brings in income and property values and ability to pay. And so when you go through this formula, and they say you have and at the end of the day, you have your citizens have the ability to pay this amount of money, okay? And then the school district gets this amount of money from the state. Unfunded mandates, there are a lot of them. And every week, we have legislators that come forward, and in the Senate, and they come up with, they want to do this, they want to do this, they want to do this. And some of those bills pass, most of them fail. But whatever does pass is handed down to the school districts with no funding. Then we have Ed Choice, where we have funded, and I've told and been clear with the superintendent and the treasurer and all those superintendents, it's not going away. Families want choice. They want to be able to, whether it's a charter, a parochial school, a private school, they want to be able to choose where their children go to school. And that is not going to change. It doesn't matter who the governor is. When there were Republican dominance or Democrat dominance, the school choice issue never changes. It's going to be increasing. So we have to make decisions property tax wise, and most people are just looking at another Band-Aid approach, but I'm looking at it from the standpoint, if we were starting from zero, just baseline, what is the best way to get this thing done? The problem we have is that you still have 10 to 12 taxing jurisdictions in Centerville, Washington Township, 98 taxing jurisdictions in Montgomery County. And they had a press conference, and I think Carl Keith a few days ago, lauding that they generated $1 billion of property tax revenue in Montgomery County for the first time, as if that was a big parade. The parade would have been $750 million, not $1 billion. So we are overly dependent on property tax. It's a regressive tax. There's a gentleman who brought up the issue of an income tax. That's a progressive tax. We've got the income tax in Ohio. When I first got there, we had 6 brackets. Now we have 2. And then we'll phase that out over the next 10 years. So I guess my feeling is that this is not an easy fix. And we can Band-Aid, and we have many Band-Aids in this process. Some of them go back to the 1800s. But we don't have a solution. But I just want to let you know we're working on this. I hope that the Senate will concur, we can come up with the ideas. With this, I've received a lot of input from citizens, really good ideas. If anybody's a wonk and wants to use some AI to help out, that would be helpful. But it's not going to go away anytime soon. It's just not going to. I had a meeting with, this is an interesting thing, because last May, I had a meeting with Ron DeSantis from Florida. And he was talking about all these great things that they were doing in Florida and so on and so forth, and how they were funding schools. And then I told him about Montgomery County and the taxing jurisdictions. They don't have that in Florida. They don't have 98 taxing jurisdictions and 99 soil types that they tax. So It's a big challenge, and I'll answer any questions you have if that's okay. But I will tell you this, the first thing that people don't do is look at the menu of taxes, because it is a cycle that seems to run every, this year it's a police levy, next year it's a fire levy, and it's a park levy, and it's a school levy, and it's whatever. Go ahead.
Why don't we'll give the mic back to Laura. I just want to say one thing before John talks, because he'll follow up on this too. What you didn't hear is that we are at the base level, getting the least amount of money that's possible. What you didn't hear is that the state Supreme Court declared it illegal and inappropriate of how the state is funding our schools. What have they done? Absolutely nothing. They've ignored the state Supreme Court. They continue to ignore proper funding of public education. They take money from public education, give it to private schools, and that's why you are paying more taxes. That's why you have a cycle every 4 or 5 years, because they refuse to fix the problem. A Band-Aid is a Band-Aid. That is not a fix. I'm going to let John talk because he'll give you more details and numbers. But I just want you to know that what you heard was there is no fix and nothing is going to change. And giving you, the senior citizens, listen, I think we're all well aware money is tight. I mean, and the senior citizens are being affected terribly by this. They're not fixing it. They are not fixing it. And he can stand here and tell you, we've got this and this, we're doing this bill and that bill and this bill and giving you this. It's not changing the way schools are being funded right now. And the burden is falling on everyone in this room, and especially the senior citizens. All yours, John.
That we need to hear from Representative Young is that in this past bill, this budget bill, the legislature decided that they were going to increase what we call universal vouchers. We have a different name for it, but universal vouchers, which means that you can get money from the state, give it to you, and you can take the child to any type of private school you want to. We can have a discussion about choice or not choice. We can have that discussion. But let's assume we're all okay with that decision. They've determined that to educate a child, they're going to give a parent to go to a private school for high school over $8,000. And if you're in elementary up to high school, it's over $7,000. We get from the state less than $1,500 per child, but they'll give a parent $8,000. Now, that's fine. Give us the $8,000 per child that you're giving everyone to take them to a private school. In addition to that, we have charter schools. The charter kids going to school get $8,000 to go to a charter school. So the legislature over the private school stuff is recently getting the kind of money it is. It used to be just for some individual locations where the schools were failing and they had some low taxes issues. But they've increased it now to what we call universal. There used to be 25,000 people getting vouchers. So far this year, there's over 82,000 people that signed up for these $8,000 per child or $7,000. You add it up, it's going to be estimated over $1 billion that they're going to give parents to go to private schools, to private schools. And our district gets very little money per child comparatively. Now, that's a broken system, but it's been broken for a long time. But those decisions sure as hell didn't help it.
Yeah, I would say this. First of all, the new formula that has come out has not, it's the first time they've ever done anything in 24 years, but it's not been challenged in court.
It's not helping out.
But the other issue is this.
That's going to be better.
But if you don't have that child in school, you still get the tax.
Of course, if you don't, you don't get the money from the state to go to a private school.
Yeah, but you still get the tax dollars, whether the kid's there or not.
Who gets the
I'm
tax?
still paying taxes.
Sure, you're still paying taxes. I still pay taxes too.
Right.
And part of my tax is going to go to that as well, as much as I go here.
Sure.
But you're giving them something they didn't have before because of this choice thing. They promote choice. That's great. Give us the same amount of money that you're giving those parents?
So we have, well, it depends on how they have done this formula, and that's the issue. With wealthy
It's pretty easy.
districts
Formula
pay
give
more
us the same
taxes.
amount. It's not hard.
Wealthy districts pay more taxes. And that's the way that the system is set up now. But I will tell you that if we have reimbursed from the state GRF revenue fund almost $2 billion to replace the reductions in funding. And the other thing that we have done is we increased education $2 billion, and that doesn't even include the funds from the federal government under the ARPA.
But we're still-
I mean, it's substantial what
But
we've
not
done for
here.
higher education,
It's
or
not
for
here.
primary through secondary in the last 3 years.
How much
It's
of that is coming to
extraordinary.
Centerville?
More money than they've received in the last 20 years.
But we're not getting any more. We're getting $1,500 maybe, Laura, per child, and you're getting private, parents going to get $8,000?
I mean, under the formula that they have set up, you have districts that are poor, and they're gonna get more money than Centerville does.
Not if you
And
have a
that's-
formula, not if
and
you have a
that's the
formula
way
that
that
you
it's
give
done.
every child
But you do have a
$8,000.
baseline that you never had.
If you give
That's for
each
sure.
child $8,000 like we're doing for private and charter schools, would be great. Give us all $8,000, we'll take it. Question here.
That money is not gonna make that big of a difference, but I understand. Because it's not gonna come to this district, it's gonna come to.
That's what I'm saying. That's our guidance, John.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna do. It's gonna go
Hey, no, I
to,
just-
the formula is set up, the formula is set up where the monies will go to districts that are poor. And they consider Centerville and Washington Township and Miamisburg and some of the other school districts, Oakwood, to be able to pay more than those poor
Those
schools.
parents,
That's
those
it
parents
right
have
there.
money to make as much as $135,000 a year and still get $8,000 more to put their child in the private school. Question, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
No problem.
I appreciate that very much. You mentioned these bills that are in the legislature currently that will hopefully provide some relief for our senior citizen community members. I think that's wonderful. I mean, we've heard from several right now, and it is hard. We're all feeling the pinch. However, when you mention, learning about the Fair School Funding Plan, seeing how Centerville fits through the calculations, knowing that the only way that we even get the $1,200 per student is because we're on a guarantee for that, $10-ish million a year. So if we weren't on a guarantee, we would be getting considerably less by the formula. When we talk about then freezing property taxes for a substantial portion of our population right now, I mean, somebody said it's a third. I think it's actually a little bit higher than that when we did the investigation during the last election. Will that be taken into account to relook at how Centerville fits into the formula? Because, I know that the state system is broken. I know that we kind of get the raw end of the deal at our district for our taxpayers. At the end of the day, the people that suffer for this is the students. There are children. There are children who we want to go on and change the world and be wonderful citizens. So I guess what I'm asking is, I see all the global problems and the need for a fix. How do we help our students now?
I would say that if these bills are passed and signed into law, the additional monies will come from the General Revenue Fund at the state of Ohio. So how they're distributed would be for those who qualify in the district, okay? And those would be reimbursed accordingly, whether they're the age group, the income group, or whatever the bill is focused on at that particular time.
Will it alter where we fall as far as the wealth factor for the calculation? Will we be able to alter
The
that?
bills
Now
are-
we sit in that tier 5, where
Right.
we get the least amount of money possible.
Right.
Will that help us?
The formula doesn't play into these pieces of legislation.
So even
There are
though you-
categories of people with income, age, disability, veterans, so on and so forth. Yeah.
So even if you were to cap their property value or
Home
cap their
values.
revenue, it would, they would still factor into that wealth calculation on their actual value, not what's capped? Do you see what I'm saying?
You're saying, would the formula affect any of this legislation? Is that what you're asking?
Would the legislation affect where we fit in the formula?
The fair school funding formula.
Would we?
No, these bills have to do, for instance, reducing the taxes for those people that qualify.
Which will
And
reduce
then-
how much tax is collected for our
And
district.
then the GRF would reimburse the county auditor would take those dollars and disperse them accordingly. And so I believe that they would come back to the districts where the people have taxes, not the formula in itself. But I'll check that out. I'll give you my card, you can call it over.
That'd be great.
I'll take a check.
I have a question about the lottery. A gentleman who brought that up earlier. And my understanding is that the school has a set budget that goes to, or sorry, the state has a set budget that goes to schools. And even if the lottery has a losing year, they make 10%, 20%, 30% more. Yes, 100% of that money goes there, but then the state just reduces their contribution to the schools. If that is true, why is that the case?
Well,
because this gentleman over here had indicated that it was supposed to be the solution to the problem, but it seems like the state's maybe using that to put some more money in their coffers as opposed to give it back to the schools.
Yeah, I think when they passed that legislation, they used that constitutional amendment when it went into the lottery system, and then casino gambling and all this kind of thing. And it was a bill of goods. The schools don't get a lot of money from the lottery, and but it's a huge bureaucracy. I've asked many times to meet with those guys to go over this and look at this. It's a little bit of money that they generate, and it's very frustrating.
I'll give you,
because you would think that it would be.
Before Tom became a rep, the lottery, that's when it all happened. Whatever money the lottery generated for our school, the state in the next biennium budget took that exact amount away. So they said that you're getting all the lottery money, but we're going to give you less. So the net effect was exactly the same. The school district did not benefit 1 penny from the lottery money, but the state was allowed to say, we're giving you lottery money. So if they gave $1 million, the next budget, there was $1 million less for us. So our net effect was 0. But that was before Tom, so I'm not going to blame him.
No, that's okay.
I think that's how it's a solution. That's the case. It's like that we got lied to, the pilots, right? We supported this whole venture, and we thought that it was going to be better for schools.
Yeah, you did, and I believe that we all did, and that's something that I've made inquiries into. I'll keep doing that. But yeah, Ohioans got sold a bit of this.
Representative, I have a question. Currently before the legislature is a bill, or coming up a bill for the capital budget, where they're going to put a proposal in to have private schools to get money from the state to build buildings. That's being proposed. The Senate President has said he's for that. What is going on in the House in regard to giving private schools money to build buildings, which they've never done before?
We have not seen anything so far.
Well, I know, but it's all over the papers. It's all in the papers, and the Senate President said he's for it. So what's going on with that at all?
Well, he'll have to pass that legislation. Right now, it's a different budgetary cycle, so you know that budget's over.
Well, it'll be coming in June, right? Capital budget?
Well, if they, he's got $350 million that they can use, one-time money, right? It's not going to be there ever again. It's $350 million, and the senators can choose whatever they want. In the House side, we did have some schools that they wanted to use to build up in northern Ohio, up near the Youngstown area, and we blocked it.
So back in November, we all, most of us, right, legalized recreational marijuana.
Yeah.
What portion of those sales taxes going towards schools?
Well, that's zero.
What happened, but that's the citizens initiative. And so what we're trying, the Senate has looked at it and they have their opinion on what they should do with the dollars. And the House is, we're deciding on what we feel we should do with the dollars. We're at an impasse. We're at an impasse on those monies. It's that, that bill is, no, actually, there's no distribution going on at all. I hope this didn't.
Well, we appreciate it. There's still a few questions out there. We'll take one more. This is the last question.
Okay, I'm sorry, it's more of a comment. Okay. As a supporter, a very strong supporter, I know that people get frustrated that the district has to come back every 3 to 4 or 5 years to ask for money. I think this has been really educational as to why that is. And I just want to say that I'm proud that this district keeps coming back and fighting for our children. And they are not doing it for any reason except that their hands are tied. If they are doing their jobs the way we expect them to, then we need them to be in the community asking for more every 3 to 4 years. There's no other option. And I think that was clear tonight.
So I want to make one last comment that can kind of maybe wrap some things up. There's a lot of conversations tonight about funding, but I think it's important to share a little bit about what Tom Young was talking about as far as the ed choice and that conversation. We are a public school district that has to educate all children that come to our doors. We don't get a chance to select and change and make decisions based upon money or a voucher for that student to attend another private school or university or program. I would ask that you make the rules the same and fair for both public and private, because I know one thing, this community will compete, our kids will compete, and we can compete with those private schools. And so make the rules the same for all of us, and we appreciate that. So thank you.